They fired her for wearing a hijab. What happened next left the CEO in tears. Zara, a young, ambitious professional, loved her job. She was excellent at what she did, always meeting deadlines, inspiring her peers, and bringing energy into every project. To her colleagues, she was dependable. To her superiors, she was a high-performing asset. But as fulfilling as her career was, Zara had been yearning for something more, a deeper connection to her identity and faith. One day, she decided to embrace her beliefs more outwardly by wearing a hijab to work. What should have been a personal choice, purely her own, soon turned her workplace into a battleground. Although she continued to excel at her responsibilities, the reactions from her colleagues and managers made it clear something had changed, and not for the better. On Zara's first day back at work with her hijab, she arrived at her desk with the same enthusiasm as always. But the energy around her was different. She noticed the hushed tones as she entered the break room, the way colleagues avoided meeting her gaze now. Comments that were playful before now felt coated with discomfort. Yet, Zara kept her head held high, responding with a polite smile and continuing to focus on her work. At first, Zara told herself it was all in her imagination. Yet, as days turned into weeks, the disapproval became impossible to ignore. A senior colleague joked about her being too formal now. Others began excluding her from casual chats and brainstorming sessions. She could feel she was being sidelined. What hurt even more was that, until now, she had considered many of these people her workplace family. Management, too, started acting differently. Meetings became more critical of her contributions, and she was micromanaged in ways she never had been before. Despite her stellar track record, the once routine great job emails were replaced with silence or nitpicking feedback. Then one afternoon, Zara was called into a meeting with HR and her supervisor. The air was heavy as she sat down. She was told she wasn't meeting expectations, a line she couldn't believe given her history of glowing performance evaluations. Moments later, they handed her a termination letter. Her shock quickly morphed into heartbreak. She knew this wasn't about her work. It was about her hijab. But while her body trembled from the injustice of it all, Zara left the building quietly, clutching the letter in her hand. Tears streamed down her face as she stepped outside. Her close friends and family were her first lifeline. They rallied around her, affirming that what had happened was not her fault and that she had every right to embrace her faith. Slowly, those conversations turned from grief to strength. Zara realized she couldn't let this go unanswered, for herself and for anyone else in her position. She had to take action. That evening, Zara sat in her living room, heartbroken and questioning everything about herself. Had she brought this on herself by wearing her hijab? Was she wrong for expecting acceptance? With the encouragement of loved ones, Zara decided to seek legal advice. She reached out to a lawyer specializing in workplace discrimination. When she explained her story, the lawyer reassured her that she wasn't just fighting for herself, she was standing up for fairness and inclusion. After filing her case, Zara made a bold decision. She would share her experience on social media. With trembling hands but renewed determination, she posted her story online, recounting the small moments of exclusion, the biased treatment, and ultimately, her termination. Her honesty struck a chord. Within hours, her story began to spread. Additions poured in from people who'd experienced something similar, from women who had been judged for their faith, culture, or personal choices, to those who had witnessed discrimination and struggled to speak up. Within days, tens of thousands of comments rallied behind Zara. People from all walks of life sent her messages of solidarity. The hashtags #SupportZara and #Equality in Workplaces began trending. What had started as Zara's personal battle had now become a movement, inspiring thousands to share their own stories. While Zara was overwhelmed by the support from the public, the company that had fired her was facing a storm of its own. News outlets picked up the story, and the social media backlash tarnished its reputation. Employees within the organization began resigning, citing a toxic workplace culture. Investors distanced themselves from the scandal, while clients started reconsidering their partnerships with the company. The CEO, a man known for his sharp business acumen, found himself cornered. His once thriving company was now losing money, clients, and reputation. Headlines painted him as indifferent to discrimination, and he couldn't avoid the growing uproar. On paper, his company's success was collapsing, but privately he wrestled with regret. As much as the waves of support uplifted Zara, the journey wasn't without its challenges. She faced online trolls and critics who questioned her intentions. The legal battle and media attention drained her emotionally. There were moments late at night when she wept, questioning whether she had the strength to continue. What kept her going were the strangers who sent her messages of hope and the thought of women like her who might walk similar paths. Her fight was no longer her own. It was for something bigger, and that gave her purpose. One day, Zara received an unexpected letter. It was from the CEO himself. He wanted to meet her. Publicly, it might look like damage control, but privately, the words struck a different tone. He wrote that he'd failed to lead with fairness and humanity. He wanted to understand Sarah's perspective. After consulting with her family, Zara agreed to meet him. If nothing else, she thought, it was a chance for her voice, her pain, to be heard directly by the man at the top. In a small room, face to face, Zara and the CEO sat down. Zara was calm yet unshakable. She recounted her journey in detail, from the subtle microaggressions to the devastating moment she was fired. Her voice broke as she described the toll it had taken on her confidence and mental health. The CEO listened silently at first, but as Zara spoke, his eyes welled up with tears. He apologized, acknowledging that the culture he had allowed to fester in his organization had hurt not just Zara, but countless others like her. It was a moment of raw human connection, a man grappling with the harm he had caused, and a woman standing strong despite her pain. In a surprising gesture, Zara extended forgiveness. It wasn't about excusing what had happened. It was about choosing compassion over bitterness for her own sake. For the first time in months, she felt unburdened, ready to move forward without anger holding her back. The CEO, deeply moved, committed to turning his company into a leader in inclusivity. He pledged to implement training programs for staff, update company policies, and ensure no employee would face what Sarah had endured under his watch. Zara's story didn't just change one company. It sparked conversations across industries, inspiring other businesses to reevaluate their cultures and practices. People began calling for stronger safeguards against workplace discrimination. It wasn't just about Zara's hijab anymore. It was about fairness and acceptance for all. Months later, Zara found herself in a new workplace, one that welcomed her for who she was. The warm smiles of her colleagues and the genuine inclusivity reminded her that change was possible. Her journey had been fraught with trials, but it had left an undeniable mark. As Zara glanced at her email inbox one afternoon, she noticed a message from a stranger. It read, "Because of you, I found the strength to wear my hijab to work. Thank you for being brave." This wasn't just Zara's story anymore. It was a call to action for the world. Discrimination hides in the smallest actions, the fleeting judgments, the words left unsaid. But change begins when we choose to act and speak up against it. Zara's story reminds us of our collective power to create a world where no one has to choose between their identity and their livelihood. This is the kind of compassion and courage the world needs now more than ever. Will you be part of the change? The choice is in your hands. Fade out with text. Stand up for diversity. Speak out for fairness. Together, we can build a workplace and a world where everyone belongs. Don't forget to subscribe for more moral stories that teach courage and bravery.